Hello and welcome to another episode of Fikava Vet Chat. My interviewee tonight is not a veterinary surgeon, or it is nearly one. It's Merel Knoops, the president of IVSA, the International Veterinary Student Association. And I like to welcome her tonight for this episode of Fikava Vet Chat. So, hello, Merel.
Hi, Wolfgang.
So did you also recover from all the congresses last week?
Yeah, there was a lot happening, definitely, but it was such a great experience.
I think I saw you at the World and European Congress, but did you also go to a BSAVA Congress as well?
No. I didn't get to attend the BSAVA one, but I was at the Warszawa Fikava Congress.
I'm always amazed sort of how much your veterinary students sort of manage to, what shall I say, to squeeze out time to squeeze out time sort of to additionally attend these events. And we will probably come to that also later with all the extra work you guys have with the International Veterinary Student Association. But let's first have a little bit of a chat about you. So I understand you are originally from the Netherlands, but you are studying in Ghent University in Belgium, yeah?
Exactly, yeah.
Was veterinary medicine always the thing you wanted to do, or how?
Yeah, it's a very basic story. I was like a 6-year-old girl. From the second I found out what a veterinarian is and that it exists, I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. And I have been saying that ever since I was a little kid, and it never changed. So
there was no plan B for you?
I briefly considered human medicine as a plan B, but that would be like if I didn't get into vet school. But then I didn't get into vet school in Utrecht, and I was like, okay, no, I don't want to do human medicine. So I went to Belgium to go to vet school.
Yeah, human medicine was a sort of one of my sort of plan Bs, and I'm very happy that it didn't turn out, because I think we far more interesting job. I mean, I'm married to a human doctor, and so this is not only one species. We have sort of many different species. And just the work we do is just so more varied. So I don't know, maybe I have a short-sighted idea. I mean, there's also so many interesting fields in human medicine. But then I thought I was possibly not cut out of it. Sort of some the emotional sides of the job, I think I possibly find very difficult.
Yeah.
So, but you're Dutch. You're studying in Belgium. How does that work? Did you also try to get a place at Utrecht University, or? Okay.
Yeah. So in my final year of high school, I applied for a place at Utrecht University. But at the time, they worked with some kind of like a lottery system. So it was kind of based on coincidence mainly. Unfortunately, I didn't get in at the time. I was absolutely devastated. I think I cried for a week. It was like basically like a dream being shattered. But you know, you kind of have to look at the options then. And in the end, I applied to Ghent University. I got started there. I was pretty scared because they make it sound like a very terrifying kind of study, which it is. It is very difficult, of course. And then in my first year at vet school in Belgium, I did apply again to go to Utrecht, because I was like, okay, if it doesn't work out in Ghent, I want to have like a plan B. And then I actually got in, but I completely settled in there. I already had plans to like go on a vacation with my friends, and I had plans of like moving in with some of their friends afterwards as well. So I didn't want to leave anymore. So I just stuck around, and now it's been almost 5 years.
Yes, yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, it was when I studied in Hanover, and uh, with me it was right the opposite. I didn't expect getting a place, and then yes, they had also these
Mhm.
sort of some sort of lottery system, and I was doing my national service, and I was sort of in the Navy, and suddenly sort of my parents phoned and said, "Here's a letter from the university," or so, and I said, yeah, don't worry. Don't worry that it didn't turn out, and sort of I was not expecting it. So
Yeah.
no, 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 no. You got a place. You got a place, and it's a what?
No way.
It was completely crazy. So I then had to decide: do I finish my national service immediately, or do I see it through, or do I finish it immediately? But then I would have had to
Mhm.
go. And when I actually finished in the national service first, because I thought let's have that done, and gave me also a little bit more time, and then yes, yeah, we got over the years in German students that had started in Kent, and they were a bit shell shocked because
Yeah.
that was the course in Kent was known to be quite tough, yeah.
Yeah. It
But then
definitely is.
yeah, I mean, veterinary medicine, wherever you do it, I think it's not
Mhm.
an easy course. Mm.
No, when I talk to friends, they say the same things, like friends from all over the place. Vet school is difficult. Doesn't matter where it is.
So, you are then due to finish this summer, or
Uh,
uh,
no. So this year I'm taking a bit of a sabbatical. So
okay.
I can focus a lot of my time on IVSA because it is basically a full-time job to be president. So I took on just a couple of subjects in the first semester, and then now I'm in the second semester and I'm not taking on any. So
Mm.
I'm going to do my 5th year again next year with like the subjects I have remaining, and then there's also the 6th year as well. So 2
Yeah,
more
no, I mean
years.
that would explain one of my questions I had, which is sort of how do vet students find the time to be so active in IFSA? So I mean, IFSA and FECAVA have been working together now for several years, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of good projects that are done. And what we notice is, I mean, IFSA is very often sort of the organizations that answers the fastest, in the most efficient way. They are really switched on. If you have somebody from IFSA in a working group, also, you guys are just, I mean, amazing. It's putting us all to shame, really. Mm. But
Yeah.
then, yes, yeah. If you take a sabbatical, then yeah, you have a little bit, because I couldn't have done it at certain times
Mhm.
during my studies. It just, I wouldn't have found the time, I think.
No, yeah, it is. The president job usually is the only one that takes the year off. All the other positions in our team of officials or in our board, they don't. I was on the executive committee last year as well, and on the Flemish veterinary student board, but I combined those two positions with also full-time vet school. So this year is actually um, easier to manage, even if being a president, obviously, it is almost a 40-hour week. But no vet school for me right now, so that definitely does help. And most previous presidents have also taken the year off.
And that was me. I took the year off, but actually half a year off when I was studying, and but that was to work in steelworks in Hanover for 3 months, and then to travel to Australia and to Fiji, and there we go. So you
For
guys
traveling.
take a year off to do something for the profession. So it really
Yeah.
put thing. It's just amazing, sort of. But let's talk a little bit about IFSA, because IFSA, I think there are some universities and some students that are very aware of IFSA, and I find that other universities are not so connected, they're not so aware, they're not so engaged. Admittedly, sort of, I mean, when I studied the history of IVSA a little bit more, to my horror, I noticed that they were already around when I was at Hannover Vet School. And to be quite honest, in Germany, we did exchanges between universities. We had a very nice exchange with Bristol, for example, and also university in Poland and in France. But International Veterinary Student Association, I had no idea that that existed. So how does it come? It's pretty much depending on some individual people probably at the university, I would say, or
Yeah, I think that's the thing that a lot of student associations run into, because the fact we're students, in some schools, the third year is the hardest, and then in others, the final year is the hardest. So there's always such a high turnover. I guess in National Veterinary Association boards, there's people that can manage to make time for multiple years in a row. But for us, we're lucky if someone sticks around for 2 years. But quite often it is maybe for 1 year that they can make the time. So it's just the turnover that makes it very hard to have a consistent presence at university. So member engagement definitely is something that remains one of our priorities to focus on as well. But yeah, it depends on the country. There are definitely some countries as well that have had like a very big presence in the past years. IVSA Germany now actually is one of our most active ones. So yeah, and then there's other countries that have a bit of a tougher time. So those are also things that we focus on as IVSA. And then there's MOs that have a very active period, and then the people quit, the active people quit, and then they don't completely disappear, but it becomes a bit more low key. So yeah, that's always a shame to see. But I think that's one of the issues with having such a high turnover.
How was that with you? Was sort of international communication with students from other vet schools? Was it always how did you get into that, or the work with IVSA?
Yeah, so I think I've always had a very big interest in travel and just different cultures around the world, and I always wanted to kind of get to know more about that. And then in my second year of vet school, I had a friend who got to be on the board of IVSA Ghent, and she was like, yeah, hey, do you maybe, like, you're also interested in this? And I was like, yeah, I would love to be on the board as well. So then I kind of got in there as a social media manager at the time, and the year after I ran for president of IVSA Ghent. So then, I kind of went higher up, and then I ran for a position in IVSA Global. So it kind of like escalated like that. But yeah, it definitely was always something I really, really enjoyed.
Once you're in it, it's addictive.
Yeah. It really is addictive. Yeah, you can't stop. You just
it's. I mean, that's the same thing as with Fekava. I mean, that's what I always sort of tell. A lot of sort of when I go to national meetings or speak to my sort of fellow German countrymen and women, sort of, they say, guys, if you when you experience this sort of sitting on at a table and then with colleagues from 10, 15 different countries around the table, and you realize we are sitting in the same boat. We are not a big profession, but yet we have all the same. We might not speak the same language, and we have all the same. But we have all the same problems day to day, difficulties, and a lot of sort of things to talk about. And it's one of the best companies I could have wished for. And I mean, all the contacts I made over the years through Fekava, also, for example, during the student exchanges, sort of that we did at the time at vet school. Sort of some of these people, they are lifelong friends. In fact, one of the guys here in England, I did in Germany the exchange with, he's now the godfather of one of my sons. So it goes a long way. Actually.
Yeah, it really does. It's really great to meet so many people from all over the world, and there's so many similarities that you can find yourself in and that you can bond over. And then there's also the differences that actually connect you even more sometimes, I would say. That's definitely, I think, one of my favorite things. And some of my best friends, they live in completely different countries. They live all over the world, which isn't always great, because sometimes, you just want to see them, you want to be there in person, but you can't. But on the other hand, it's a great feeling to know you can travel any place and have people to welcome you into their homes.
Well, sort of, that brings me to one point that obviously hasn't helped in that respect, and that's COVID. So, I mean, it has affected sort of our sort of day-to-day working environment at veterinary clinics. But I mean, I'm just dreading to think about the impact it must have had on vet students, because I mean, there are a lot of things, especially in the final 2 years at vet school. There's a lot of hands-on and close-up manual activities you have to do, and they are just so vital for our job later. I mean, you need to get your clinical experience. So how has that impacted on students? Sort of, what are your sort of reports back, and how have they managed to work around it?
Yeah, so I've been asked this question quite often in the past couple of months, of course. And I think one of the things I always used to say was how resilient vet students are. So how much, we've adapted and we've continued to just keep on going. And of course, that's true. We are extremely resilient, but I don't know, lately I just think that resilience really shouldn't be the standard, basically. It's a very hard time for students, and I feel like just saying, oh, we're so resilient, it just kind of euphemizes everything that's happening to us right now, because it is very hard. It is super hard for students starting vet school in their first year, not being able to go out and make friends in the lecture halls, or going to the parties and meeting new people. It's hard for the 5th years and the 6th years who are supposed to have all of their clinical rotations, get that practical experience, and they barely can. It is very hard, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's not, because as long as basically as long as everyone just says, oh no, it's fine, we can go on, there's not going to be any help, basically. So yeah, it hasn't been great on us.
And I mean that, and that's also followed on sort of finding placements in clinics at the moment with very little or no work experience. Sort of, I think it's very, very difficult. I mean, just you can't do interviews in the traditional way. I mean, if the best is possibly Zoom interviews or something like that, but well, it's still probably far more difficult at the moment to get placements, because what I heard, sort of a lot of clinics try to avoid having a lot of newcomers or outsiders in their team, because that's an additional infection risk.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think also a bit harder to have job interviews right now. It's hard to really leave a correct impression on a screen. 97% of communication is nonverbal, so it is very hard, of course, to kind of show yourself when you're not really there in person. And then also, as you said, the people graduating now, they have had a more limited practical education. So yeah, to maybe all the vets that are hiring, the new colleagues, the young colleagues that just have come out of vet school, take it into consideration that it has been not a classical education for them, that they do need even more guidance than I think most people coming out of vet school already do. Because I think obviously new vets, they need quite a lot of guidance already. They need someone to kind of look over them for a while. They need a bit of a mentorship. But these people, these next 2 years, I think they're going to need it even more.
Well, and I think it's probably sort of the jump in the cold water for a lot of students, because I mean, the feedback that I get back from a lot of clinics is that the teams are exhausted. They're exhausted because practice sort of curbside consultations and practicing under COVID restrictions often meant that everything takes much longer than expected, and you're often working far more hours under far more sort of difficult circumstances, and because of that sort of well, it's not easy to get people sort of to help out or to get into the team, and yet a lot of the teams sort of, they need a break, they need some support, they need people to help them, and because of that, I mean, they certainly, I mean, that's possibly the good thing. So there is certainly demand for veterinary students or also new veterinarians.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, in Belgium, there's definitely, and Belgium and the Netherlands, there is a high enough demand, at least. But as you said, the work pressure for vets, it already was high, but I think the pandemic has just made it even higher. Everyone's overworked, clinics are overworked. Lots of new puppies, lots of new kittens.
That's the thing. So I mean, looking a little bit further ahead, sort of in the future, if I compare sort of veterinary medicine, sort of when I qualified, sort of about 30, 40 years ago, sort of, and compare that now with the work you guys are doing and expect to do in 30 years. How do you think the profession is going to change further? Will there be only, for example, telemedicine? Will you see an animal at all in 30 years? What do you think?
I hope so. I really hope I get to see an animal in 30 years still. But yeah, I think it's always very hard to predict the future, because there's going to be things that are going to happen that no one could have seen coming. Definitely not me. But obviously, like, one of the things that has been happening a lot over the past decade, or has increased a lot over the past decade, obviously digital technology, and it has been sped up. It has accelerated even more with the whole COVID pandemic. It has forced us into this digital age even more. So telemedicine is definitely going to be, I think, a bigger aspect of veterinary medicine. It's never going to fully replace just going to see your actual vet. At least I think not in the near future. And then digital technologies, artificial intelligence, these are definitely aspects I think we're going to see more in the future. We're going to see more of. But yeah, it's going to be a roller coaster ride, probably. There's going to be new drugs, new surgical mechanisms that we're going to explore. So it's not going to be the same. But
when I qualified was so that the idea or the outlook was, at least in Germany, it was so that they said, well, it's not much further progress in farm animals, and in small animals a little bit of more demand, but not much more. And well, have a look how much more work we have seen in companion animals, sort of. And I think that was partially driven by the achievements and the developments in veterinary medicine, or also in human medicine, that people just see there is so much more you can do, so much more is possible. You can provide much better care, and sort of, if this is sort of demonstrated, and also I think the status of pets within the family has really gone up. Sort of, it's no longer just sort of the dog that is sort of outside many years ago on a chain, and it's just there to protect the house or something like that. It's a family member, or a cat. It's not just there to keep sort of like a farm cat, sort of rats and mice sort of at bay. Sort of no. It's a very, very important sort of companion, possibly sort of the closest sort of physical sort of element people have in their life, and obviously that's very precious. And because of that, sort of there is an increased demand that a really good medical health or medical provision is given, and also sort of the lifestyle prevention of diseases have become far more important.
Yeah, definitely. There's the way that people look at their pets right now, it has changed drastically over the past couple of years. Obviously, within Europe, we're at a point now where basically our dogs and our cats, they're like family members to us. And that's something that I think is also going to happen to a lot of the other regions, underserved regions right now, where they don't particularly look at cats and dogs that way right now, not everywhere. I think that is something that also comes with the more privileged regions such as Europe. But that's definitely a trend I think we're also gonna see in those regions. And the more people care about their pets, also the more money they are willing to spend, basically. Because obviously the thing with going to a vet and keeping your pet healthy, it means you're gonna have to put in some kind of money. And you know, when you're a kid, they get like a little bunny and they care about it so much. The bunny itself, it only costs like 20 euros maybe, but lots of parents are still going to be willing to, you know, get all of the vaccines, make sure that the rabbit stays healthy throughout its entire life, just because it means so much to their kid. It means it grows on you, like the little fuzzy thing. It really does grow on you.
One other thing I wanted to talk to you about is one project that IVSA and FECAVA work together on, and that's the FECAVA IVC Evidencia Travel Student Scholarship. God, that's a long word. but I think it's a great project, sort of where 10 students from different universities in Europe are able to attend the European and this year also World Congress. So that's something we are very at FECAVA. We are very grateful that IVSA is working together with us on this one. We're obviously also very grateful to IVC Evidencia for sponsoring this. But I think for students, it is a win-win situation. I think for the students, it's great to get this international exposure to see what is out there. And for us, it's fantastic because we suddenly sort of get, this feedback from the university. So there's not only veterinary practitioners out there who are all somewhere on this sort of specialist level or something like that. No, there are a lot of young veterinarians starting in first opinion practice. And I think it is very good to go back to see, okay, what are their thoughts, how is their knowledge base, what are their interests, and this is certainly made possible. And in addition to this, it's also possible going over different borders. So I think that is very important, that veterinary medicine realize that veterinary medicine is not only happening in one country, but everywhere, and it is really a good idea to look over the border, see what's outside of your own country.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, vet students are the future in the end, so I think it's very important for graduated vets as well to get some feedback every now and then, check in with the students. What's it like for you? What do you think? Which is also why I think collaborations between IVSA and FACAVA, for example, they're so valuable. You guys really appreciate like our input and our opinions, and I think that that's very important. And we obviously appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to go for us to ask for our opinion. And the scholarships, I think, are also a great example of that. Is just 10 students attending your Congress, getting to meet you guys, interact with not just IVC, but also with all of the FACAVA directors, get to know the association, get to actually experience a Congress like that, meet people from all over the world, meet students from all over Europe. So yeah, it's a great experience for them. They get to attend some high class lectures, kind of like up their vet skills. So it definitely is a win-win.
Well, it is going to continue. We unfortunately sort of the FACAVA Congress, so 2021, which was planned in Prague in September, is not going ahead this year now because we just had now the Congress. But we are working hard on a 2022 presence in Prague, and we hope that we will see again another 10 students over there, and obviously also the next IVSA president. So you will hand over the reign in September again, or how is it?
1st of September, someone else is going to take over.
Good. Merel, thank you so much for this interview. It was lovely. And well, first of all, I wish you all the best for the remaining exams. I'm so happy that I don't have to do them anymore.
I understand. Yeah, it's not the best prospect.
But well, you will pass with flying colors. I know that.
I hope so. I hope so. Thank you so much for inviting me. It really was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. And if anybody would like to comment on this episode of FACAVA Vet Chat or has any ideas about future vet chats, please email us on vetchat@facava.org or do contact us via our social media outlets. Or otherwise, just speak to any one of us when you see us again at another Congress or conference. Thank you very much. See you next week.